Welcome to Memories of McAdam. My name's Taylor Glant, and today with me I have Bob Nason. Bob's 85 years old, and he's been practically a lifelong citizen of the community. He's had a long career with the railway and knows some history. So, Bob, I always like to start out of the family history of how you got to McAdam or how your family got to McAdam. Do you want to talk about your parents or grandparents?
Well, my parents was Fred Nason and Rachel. And Rachel, she was her maiden name was Cook, and she was a sister to Jim Cook, that has the store, and they was homesteading out the Harvey Road there in Whitehead Settlement.
Okay.
And I guess my mother, she was hiring out for work in McAdam here, and my father took an eye to her, and they got married in 1924.
1920. That's interesting because when we interviewed George, he talked about Whitehead some. I think you probably saw the interview. So your mom actually came from Whitehead as well.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was your father Fred? Was he on the railway as well?
Fred worked. He started when he was 11 years old as a call boy.
Okay.
With CPR, and then as time moved on, he got on the section and he worked the sections mostly around here in the north and east.
So for people in the younger generation, what is a call boy?
They called the engineman and fireman for a crane.
Okay.
They had to go from the station to their home and notify them that they were to be report for duty within a couple hours.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the brakemen, they had the caboose already in town, so they would go and call them in the van, what they call the van, and that make up a train crew.
Interesting. So how many in total would there be on one crew back then?
Well, there's three, a conductor and two brakemen,
brakemen.
and an engineman and a fireman. Be five.
Wow. So now do they have two? I think it is.
Two.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And you started your career. We talked some. You were 16 years when you
I
started.
was 16 when I got a carman's apprentice. I started in 1963. Or 53. And that was a 5-year apprenticeship. And after that I served my time at that. It was just winter work was what it was, on account of the winter port. So there was a job come up in the Roostick, and I bid the job in up there, and that was be in 1961, and I moved to Roostick I was up there for 3 or 4 years. And started out as a carman, and I got promoted up there as an assistant locomotive machine supervisor, and I was there till '64.
So how did you make your way back to McAdam?
Well, there was a shuffle here. I think Jarve Robinson went to St. John to replace the foreman down there. That made a vacancy here, and they transferred me from Roostick back down here.
Oh, great.
So
You're back
that's how I got back home.
You're back old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
And you raised your family in McAdam, and
Yes, we lived here most of our life.
yeah. And did you settle in the same house that you're living in now on Granite Street?
No, we lived in my father-in-law's house, actually.
Okay.
Over by the Ball Diamond.
Okay.
And it was right there in the fork of the road there on Granite Street and Elm Street.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's tore down now, the house that we lived in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to go back, Bob, because you did when you were a child, you were born and raised here in McAdam. What's one of your earliest memories in the community?
Well, one of the earliest, something that I've quizzed around with other people of my age and what, if they remembered of it, and so far I haven't found anybody that does not recall it, and maybe I'm beginning to wonder if I dreamt it, but anyway, it must have been just as after the war was over. The railroad CP, they set a wooden boxcar off up there at the station, and along in the evening they they had a gallows on the top of it and an effigy of Hitler hanging on off those gallows. And they took and set fire to that car and burned Hitler.
Wow.
And as I say, I've quizzed if anybody else remembers that, and I haven't found anyone that does.
Well, I've tried to research that some because I'm sure your memory's great because they've done that in a lot of other communities I know after the war. So
Well, I think they have.
knowing the amount of soldiers that came out of McAdam, I'm
Yeah.
sure the emotions were running high, and that probably would have drew quite a crowd.
But it drew quite a crowd, yes it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that you would have been just a
No, I was,
teenager maybe or young.
I was, what, 8 or 9.
Yeah, interesting. So you also have a little bit of a family connection with the baby's grave. So I know a lot of us in the community and surrounding areas know the baby's grave, that a baby was found and it was buried out, we call the bog. What's your
Right.
family connection to that, Bob?
Well, the only connection that I'm aware of is I was told that my grandfather was worked in the section crew that had that baby and took it out and buried it. But there was 2 or 3 other ones from McAdam here, and I forgot their names now. But as I say, at the time, my grandfather was working on the section and on that section, and that's how I come to find out about who was in the party.
Yeah, because your father, that was Bert Nason?
It was Bert Nason.
Bert Nason.
And the baby was discovered up along where what they call where the ice house was.
Okay.
It's just above the station where it was. And why they took it out there to bury it, I'm not sure.
Interesting. So, in approximation to the station, where would the ice house be?
Well, just
Like towards the shops or out front, or?
well, up near where the old gas house was.
Okay.
That's where the ice house was.
Okay.
And they kept, it was a big building. They had ice in it all summer long.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So really, other than the fact that they found it, there seems to be a little bit of a lost history of what happened or how it.
Nobody had any idea where it come from or who it belonged to, or
Wow.
and that's why the section fell here to bury it, I guess.
Wow. So when did you officially retire from the CPR?
From the CPR, I quit the CPR in 1976.
Okay. Because then, I know later on, I guess in the mid-90s, you were supervisor over the implementation of the nature trail.
Yes, CPR was downsizing then, and it wasn't looking good that I might, if I had to go somewhere for work with the CPR, I have to go back to Montreal, and I didn't really want to do that, so I went with Georgia Pacific.
Okay.
And worked 15 years with them.
So then, as Georgia Pacific was kind of downgrading, I think within the community there was some make work projects in the community,
Right.
and this would have been one of them, the
This
nature
is
trail.
one make work project, yeah.
So, I mean, I walk through it, a lot of people in the community walk through it, and it's really a hidden gem. One of the things I found interesting talking to you is how you guys kind of discovered of where to go, and
I don't know how we discovered it, but it just unfolded that there was no plan of what to do, so we just took and a couple of rolls of ribbon, and me and the crew of 15, we marched right around the edge of the dam and hung ribbons for an idea where we put our trail. And of course, if we come to an obstacle, we'd go around it, and that's how we come to lay it out the way it is. And all it was just to stay on the high ground and make a trail out of it. And everybody in the crew seemed to take quite an interest in doing it. And they done a good job on building it for what experience we had at it.
well, it would have been challenging because everybody knows that the soil in McAdam, with the amount of rocks and whatnot,
Yes.
you guys would have done a good job winding around and staying high.
And actually, I guess we had indications quite early that there was going to be a hit because there was people walking the trail before it was even built.
Wow.
Yeah, John Sangster was one, and it's in the video of John and Patty Little. There's another one walking, but people would walk on the trail to see what we're doing and get a start on the trail.
Well, I mean, it's almost 30 years and it's still going, still going
and still
concern.
going strong, and I'm surprised how far away people come to walk that trail. And then and it's not probably the first time they've done it. Yeah.
And you mentioned too that there's some special different flowers and foliage that's not.
Yes, there's. I kind of wish that there was some way of promoting more of the nature side of it than the walking of it. But I've been around. Well, at that time I was doing quite a lot of looking at flowers. But here a year or two ago, I come across a plant that was called a swamp azalea, and I'd never heard tell of one before. And been around up there with the trains, I found some more up there on the bank of the railroad track. But I've never seen or heard anybody mention swamp azalea.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up because I can't imagine it in my head, because I know they have that and there's milkweed and of course the turtle's nest up there. It's quite a unique location around the water, the bird sanctuary.
And when we first put the trail around over on the side next to the bunkhouse there was quite a size log in the water next on the bank, and the turtles would climb up on that in the summertime and sun themselves, and we called it Turtle Beach.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
But I don't know whatever become of the log, but it's gone, and I haven't seen no turtles around there much since.
Interesting.
To sun themselves.
Yeah. One of the things that's when you walk through the trail, there are a few signs, and I think we got to do a better job of getting a few more signs up there. But one of the signs I've seen is the highest cattails in New Brunswick, which I always thought, and you have an idea of why they are the highest.
We did notice the cattails were quite tall there, and the reason that happened, I believe, is when CPR had the cleaning track up there, around 35 track next to the water. They used to clean cars up there that had fertilizer in them, and they washed the fertilizer out of the car and it run down into the bank, and some of it must have worked its way to the edge of the pond and fertilized those cattails. And another thing that I noticed has been there ever since we put the trail around. I can't exactly say where it is. It's next to the hydro line up along there where the trail goes up around. There's a spruce tree there that's twisted. And it must have been done when it was small, but I always called it the pretzel tree.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know if other people notice it or not, but it's like a half turn on the tree, and it's kind of a oddity.
Is that the one right on the tree? Or on the rock, sorry?
No.
Because there's another one, the tree's growing right on the rock.
Yeah,
no,
that's out this way of it.
Okay.
Well, just after you start up the trail on next to the bunkhouse.
Now, another point of interest too is, well, we always called it the lightning tree, which do you know what one tree, the one that was struck by lightning?
I think I do.
It was all hollowed out, and I was always curious, did that happen before you guys put the trail in or afterwards?
That happened after.
After, okay.
Yeah, and a matter of fact, I think Clayton hit it.
Yeah.
And the fire department went in there one time and put it out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because as long as I remember, it always been there, so I didn't know. It's interesting that happened right beside the trail. So because I think we have a sign on there that says lightning tree.
Yeah.
Because if you go in behind it, the whole tree's hollowed out. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. No, that was there when we put the trail in.
Okay. Now another point of interest too that I always found interesting was the bridge.
Okay.
Did you guys build the bridge? Because I remember it was built with, there was no nails, it was wooden.
Mortise and tenon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tenon.
Yeah, we built that in the 2 years after, in 90.
Oh, after, okay.
95, 97.
97.
I think it was.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. That was another same project, only we built a covered bridge and done more work on the trail, trying to fix the trail up.
Okay.
And that was another year.
Okay.
But that was another fun project.
So did you guys build it and then take it in sections?
Yes.
Okay.
I had, I think it was 17 or 18 in the crew that year.
Wow.
And it was about half men, half women. But anyway, I split the crew, and some would work on the trail, upgrading it. And the other part of the crew was over there at the town garage. And we started building that bridge upside down. How we did it, with no roof on it, but to cut the pieces and fit them, we done it upside down. And then after we got them all manufactured, we had 2 wheelbarrows, and we rigged up a thing there to load those pieces onto, and wheelbarrowed them in from the bypass road into there and put it together.
If there's a will, there's a way.
There's a will, there's a will.
Wow, I never realized that.
And my gosh, it was surprised how well a lot of the people that had no experience in doing it. And I didn't have a lot of experience about it myself, other than I did know a little bit more, and to get everybody interested in it, and they took that and they run with it, and they had as much fun as I did building that.
Yeah.
Hammer and chisels and buck saws and
Yeah. It's quite a feather in your cap, because it's still there, and I mean it's a part of the tourism of the community of
it is.
folks.
And I guess that's the reason it was built, was just for make interest.
Yeah. Was there ever an official name put onto the nature trail? Was it City Camp or?
Well, that's what we would call it
Originally,
when we put the trail in, was City Camp.
Yeah.
But it's gone to McAdam
Nature Trail
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have some great footage, and you said some of your work crew took some videos as you guys were walking.
And the couple of the girls, one of the girls had a video camera, and a couple of them took and made the video in '95, and then the same girls were on the crew again in '97, and they took the rest of the video on that year.
Bob, thank you very much for taking the time to share your memories of McAdam with us. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome, and I'm glad to be able to add a little to it here.
Great. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.